Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. We're gonna talk numbers today. Clearly, people are excited about this. Where is everybody? What the heck? All right. We have a lot to get through today, so we're gonna rock and roll this day. Even if we have, I am shocked. I am just gonna say right now, I am shocked. I have literally requests constantly about market statistics. And I'm gonna thank the few of you that joined the call. So before we get started, I'm going to say it this way. My hope today is to bring some clarity around market statistics. And one of the best ways to understand market statistics is to go to the places where market statistics are being talked about. So we often, when people request information on market stats and for me to come in and teach a class or tell them how I go about it, my simple answer to them is if you attend any single event that I run, there's probably going to be statistics involved in it. Right, Aubrey? Like, how often do I talk numbers?
Every meeting.
I love them. Every meeting. So you guys, when I started prepping for today's call, I thought to myself, wow, like how deep do I want to go down this rabbit hole with you guys today? So I have prepared a ton of resources, a ton of information. We're going to talk general statistics and also leave time for some specific questions. So before we get started, I would like to just throw it out to you guys. You showed up to learn about mastering market stats. What do you want to get out of this mastermind? Because as you can tell, we are running this mastery model mastermind different than we have in the past. I have no guest speaker, you got me, and we're going to be doing it more mastermind style in the collaboration. So if you're on this call and you are able, please turn your video on because that is how masterminds work. And I should say asterisk, if you are appropriately dressed and ready to turn your video on, please do so. All right, so let's open it up, you guys. You came to the market stats class. What do you want to get out of it today?
Okay, I want to know how to best leverage the stats when it comes to social media and recruiting. Yes. So in a way that isn't too deep of a rabbit hole for people.
Okay, perfect.
I would agree with that. I think that I'm, as you know, like super into stats, and sometimes I am the rabbit hole. And so what I'm looking for is more manageable ways to have it more palatable for my clients, for my buyers classes, and just for my buyer consults.
Okay, perfect.
And I want to go micro, like specific zip codes or, because I get all the market actions, I get all the TMOs, but it's like the zip code, what's going on here, that kind of things.
Okay.
I'd say stats that that will allow us to compete with groups, teams, like listening to Chris's and Ben Kinney's listing presentation is just incredible. So how do we compete with that statistically?
Okay, perfect. Okay, I can already tell this is probably going to be a series of market stats conversations because what you just told me is like a broad spectrum of massive information. So this is what we're going to do today. And I'm going to go I'm going to move quickly through this as much as I can so you guys can soak it up, and I'm going to give you as many resources I can to help you through some of these conversations. We're going to go broad to more narrow. So the first thing that we're going to do before we dive into the nitty gritty, Katya, I promise you we will get you to the micro level. We may not get as micro as you want today because we're going to start the same way we start all of our masterminds, and that is around the mindset of market stats. So why do we need, we're going to start with a question. Why do we even need to know our industry market stats, right? Who wants to answer that? Why is it important that we're even having this conversation in the first place?
To
It
set their
validates.
expectations.
Set expectations for who?
Validation. Validation.
Foundation. Okay. Aubrey, I'm going to go back to yours. When you say set expectations, who are we setting the expectations for?
For the clients, for both the buyers and the sellers.
Okay, perfect.
And I think if somebody's not sharing their numbers, they're hiding behind something.
Okay. All right, they're hiding. We say this a lot. You will probably hear it multiple times today, right? Like, is your reality actually real, right?
Mhm.
Is your reality data equal facts? I love that. Okay, so why else do we need to know the market stats, you guys? That's it? That's all?
If we want to get somewhere goal-wise, we need to know our numbers.
Perfect. Okay. I love that. You guys, I'm going to break this down because sometimes when we talk market stats, our mind just goes to how many new listings, how many pendings, how many days on market, right? Like, but I want you guys to take a step back and say the reason to understand market stats is much broader than that. Number one, as Aubrey said, it's to be the best possible fiduciary to our clients. Right? That is the outward facing reason we study market stats. We want to be the economist of choice. We're going to help provide the information so that they can make the best financial decision for themselves and their families for one of the largest investments they will ever make in their life. It is our job as a professional to be that fiduciary. Also, to provide reality, not perception. Perception is reality, and just because it's your reality doesn't make it real, right? We are going to do this by bringing clarity, right? Data equals facts. We're sorting through all the numbers and information that are getting thrown at you, them, the world, and bringing them the most important things to what they want to accomplish. Number two, it's going to increase confidence, right? And I'm talking about consumer confidence, right? Katya, we're going to see this in that analysis or presentation of a TMO, because I know you asked about it, right? Like that TMO can provide confidence in making an offer. Now, like, what price should I offer? What does the market look like, right? Anybody else have that buyer in today's market that goes, wow, this is looks like a great investment. It's 425. I want to offer 408. That was my slow blink. That's how I respond to that, right? Like, also, you guys, it removes emotion when needed. And it also allows us to infuse emotion when needed, right? Logic makes us think, emotion makes us act. In today's world, is there a compelling reason sometimes with our clients to say, hey, let's remove some of that emotion from your transactional experience or your home buying search experience? Anybody think? Is there a reason to remove some of that emotion? Let me give you an example. Who's written 5 offers and not received an accepted offer yet? Pretty devastating. Is that normal for today's market? By knowing that ahead of time, could we have better prepared our clients for the emotional wake of losing out on 5 houses? Okay. All right. Now that's the first thing, right? We all, realtor DNA is to put our clients first. Now I want you to take another reason to understand your market stats. And Alan, you hit on this, right? When we talk about that business, you need to know and understand market and industry stats to run your business like a business, right? Number one, it allows us to know where the opportunities are. It allows you to keep your finger on the pulse of the trends, right? We often say we don't want to operate in the market of today. We should be preparing ourselves and operating for the market of the future. The market stats and trends are going to tell us what's coming down the pipeline and what changes we need to make today so that we're ahead of the game tomorrow, right? It allows you to structure business for maximum efficiency. We talk about this, and a lot of times people, when we talk about, hey guys, build your business through your database, build your business through relationships, and people go, okay, but I want the same results in cold calling. I want the same results in working FISBOs. I want the same results over here. If you do not understand market stats, you may be missing the boat on efficiencies in your business. And the next one, which may be the most important, is to structure your business for maximum profit, right? Which areas of our industry are we going to maximize that profit? We have to identify areas of opportunity in your business, which means skill set, your conversion. Do you know what industry norms are right now? Are you beating industry norms? Is industry norm that you're going to have to write 3 to 5 transactions in 3 to 5 offers before you get one, but you're averaging getting it in the first or second offer? Are you beating it? What are you beating? Days on market? Are you beating list versus sales price? Right? Are you beating the listings taken on the listings taken conversion rates? Are you proportionally getting more buyers in houses than other agents? Where do you stand? If you do not know your numbers, you cannot compare yourself to the industry, right? We talked about this when to understand the reality, not just the perception. And a great example of this, you guys, is inventory levels, right? Let's just open it up. We are in historically low inventory levels. The consumer reads low inventory levels as what? Oh, you're on mute, Aubrey.
Just less listings.
Right. You guys, we need to understand the DNA of our consumer. Consumers hears low inventory, in their mind, they think there are no homes for sale. Is that true?
No, it's just the absorption rate. I mean, it is true, but it's also the absorption rate.
There it is, right? That is the conversation. There's so many of these data points that as a professional, we can say, hey, let's peel back the layers. Let's put down that preconceived notion. Stop listening to your uncle's brother's cousin. And let's talk about what low inventory levels really mean, which means we need to be prepared to act on the perfect home fast, because we are also seeing a lot of houses hit the market. You just need to be in a place to get them, right? All right. Those are the reasons why I think that market stats and industry stats are important. What did I miss? Anybody else have any thoughts or ideas around it?
Les, I heard Jason Abrams say something at a family reunion that really resonated with me on the stats thing. He said, people are not looking for data, they're looking for insights. And I think that's where, like, I've missed in the past, is like, I love numbers, so I can just spit a bunch of numbers at people, but most of them go, okay. So if I can't take that and say, hey, because of these stats, here's what you need to know, and I can arm them properly, then it doesn't mean anything. So when he said that, it really resonated with me about stats.
I love it.
And I think to piggyback on what you're saying, I think when you're in that conversation around pricing or adjusting pricing, it can give you an opportunity to not be the one delivering the news they may not want to hear. Just, it's in the numbers, be mad at the numbers. And you're just the messenger.
So here's a great script if you guys aren't using it. I don't make the market, I merely interpret it.
Right.
Right? When somebody says, but I want to get this, or I want to offer less. Hey, I would love to get you that house for 25% less than listing prices. I don't make the market, I just interpret it. And the market is saying X, Y, and Z, right? And I love that. And Jake, we talk a lot about this on the leadership team, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, is being the master of telling the story, right? Katie's shaking her head. Katie, how often do we talk about telling the story?
At least once a month, maybe once a week.
Yeah. We have to be the master of telling the story, taking the information and whittling it down to WIFM, what's in it for me, right? And the me is them. Okay, we're gonna move on, you guys. What are the numbers that we need to watch? I'm gonna go through, I'm gonna give you a ton of statistical information and you're gonna go, whew, this rabbit hole is deep. And then we're going to talk about the resources. So don't feel like that this part may be a little overwhelming as we go through the next two pieces, especially if you don't love numbers like me. All right, what numbers do we watch? We're going to start big and go small, because in every consultation we talk about, I always go big to small, right? And there's a reason why we go big to small. Number one, we watch national numbers, right? This is critical. We have to understand this because this is what your clients are often exposed to, right? This is the biggest story being told. And we need to understand and listen to the biggest story being told, because we have to guide them through that to say, hey, this is what is happening average across the nation, and this is how it applies to you in Beaverton, Oregon, or Medford, Oregon, right? Number two, we watch regional numbers. Now, this is one you guys don't often know, and if you haven't been in the industry a long time, you may not understand why this is important. You need to understand the region's trends and how that compares to other markets. A great example of this was during the last Great Recession. Oregon was the last state in the country to fall, right? Literally, I remember living that, and of realtors here in Oregon had this attitude: that doesn't apply to me. Yeah, we're insulated. We have Intel, we have Nike, we have all of these industries. We're fine. 18 months after California, Florida, and the eastern seaboard fell, guess what happened to Oregon?
Leslie, on the flip side of that too, is that I always mention to people that although it is overwhelming here, that we're still the least expensive market on the West Coast, major metropolitan market. Because if you're looking at Seattle, you're looking at San Diego, or certainly the Bay Area, and even Bend, we are still the least expensive metro market. And I do think that regional piece of it is important, because it helps put things in perspective, because they're like, oh yeah, Seattle.
I love that, right? How do we compare within that? You guys, we watch those trends in our big markets, Seattle too, because Oregon traditionally lags those big markets. And we know somewhere between 9 to 18 months, it's coming down the pipeline. Let's talk about the benefit of that. Guys, we usually have the unique opportunity to see it coming. And if you're not paying attention, then you are going to get caught, right? A great example, all those agents that said Oregon is not going to fall, guess what? At the end of the day, Bend, Oregon was rated the hardest hit city or area in the country. The fastest to fall, and the farthest that it fell, because it all happened at once, right? All right, next one, statewide trends. Is there something specific and unique that is happening within our state that may be impacting us differently, right? A great example of this would be changes to our landlord-tenant laws, right? That might affect some of our statistics in investment properties, commercial properties, anything around that might be state specific. And then, of course, we go local. And this is the important thing, is all real estate is local. We need to understand the information that's coming down the pipeline, but we also need to be able to give them the best possible information that can advise them to the now, right? We have no crystal ball of what's going to happen in the future. We have indicators. But without the advice to the now, we cannot do that without local stats. And then, of course, the last one, you guys, you got to know your own numbers, right? How do your numbers compare to the local market? What are your conversion rates? And knowing those will be able to best help your clients, because those things may also indicate a gap in your own business that you need to focus on, right? If you are not getting 77% of your listings when you go on it, you got a gap in your business. How would we know that? Guys, I just threw out a stat. 77% of the time when you go on a listing appointment, you should expect to get it if you're doing a good job. How do I know that?
The data. I mean, it's right there. If you're tracking your data, you're going to have the information there.
Well, tracking my data may say I have a 90% conversion rate. Awesome.
If you're
But
tracking,
this is a great one, right? NAR says 77% of the time the seller is going to list with the first person who comes in the door. Knowing that, what should be your goal of listing appointment to listing taken?
make sure they're first one. Get in there
Make sure
first.
you're the first one.
Yeah.
And 77% of the time, you should be taking the listing. Otherwise, we need to adjust our skill set. Okay, so where do we find the market stats? Brace yourself. I'm going to throw these out to you in quick succession, and I will happy to drop some links in the chat. The big one, NAR, National Association of Realtors. There are two specific reports that we use a ton in our industry. And those are their quarterly reports. I'm going to put the link to the NAR site directly in the chat box. This will give you the schedule of when NAR releases all of their reports for the entire year. The two that you should watch for are the NAR home buyer and seller generational trends. They come out the first quarter. And the second one is the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers. That is the fourth quarter. Now they do a whole bunch of other reports throughout the year, but those are two that we talk about a lot. They track everything real estate, from home sales, inventory, prices, affordability index, seasonality, consumer preferences and trends, and distressed properties, to name a few that you would get through NAR. Next, you are going to go to your local associations, right? OAR for the Oregon, and then your local PMAR, RVAR, CVAR, all of those are going to be putting out, in most cases, more localized stats. They usually are going to mimic what NAR is providing on a local or more localized level. Next one, S&P, CoreLogic, Case Shiller. You guys, this one is going to be, I'm going to give advice, don't go too deep in that rabbit hole. Let somebody else interpret it and put it into beautiful graphs for you. No, I'm going to just move on. Real Trends, right? Real Trends tells us what the stats are for brokerages and top agents in the country. Now, just our normal economic ones, the NASDAQ, the Dow, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, we have unemployment. The Oregon Unemployment Department gives us local information. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, that's going to give us our GDP and big numbers. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, that gives us our mortgage rates and our treasury notes. The Census Bureau gives us our new home starts. Capgemini and RBC Wealth Management will tell us the world's wealthy statistics. If you're working in the luxury department, that would be very important, right? Now, Keller Research. We've got our own research department. That's going to feed down into the reports that you're getting on a local or for the McKellar system. And once a year, Gary Keller puts that all into a very, very important presentation called the Nobody, come on, guys. Katie, help me out. Come on.
State of the industry.
Yes.
Close. He does it at the same time as the state of the industry, but it is actually the vision speech. For those of you guys who missed it, I just dropped in the chat box the slides from the vision speech, as well as the link directly to KW Connect. All right, if you have not watched the vision speech, watch it. If you haven't seen the slides, download it. There are 82 beautiful slides that take all of the information from all of the resources that I just mentioned and put it into one place for us to utilize in our businesses. The next thing that we're going to say is of course, those Gary Keller also does an update of that usually at the mega camp. You can get all of that on KW Connect. That is not all. Your local MLS is going to put out your local stats for your specific MLS, typically by city or county. If you're in the RMLS, of course, that is the market action report, but all MLSs typically break down those standardized numbers. You're gonna use hot sheets, CMAs, local market data from the MLS, and then, of course, all the way down to your market center where they're going to provide you the TMO, the lore, and multi-year trends. Wow. Did I miss anything? Who's overwhelmed?
My ear's starting to hurt.
You guys, the purpose of doing that is to truly show you as professionals when we go, holy cow, that is a lot of information to process. And you're the professionals hired to be the fiduciary to navigate it. Imagine how your clients feel. Right? They don't wake up every single day studying the industry. And here's the secret, you guys. You don't have to wake up every single day and dive deep into these either. Which brings us to our next conversation, which is make it simple. Okay, we're going to take a breath. We're going to shake off all of that information because you guys, the good news is that there are incredible people who take all of this information from all of these sources and whittle it down into a couple of resources that you're going to be able to navigate and actually implement in your business without becoming a full-time economist, right? A full-time numbers guru. We've already talked about a couple of them, so we're going to go through the ones that are the most important in implementing into your business. Number one, the vision speech. The vision speech, the vision speech, the vision speech. At Keller Williams, you have a unique opportunity of a company that is invested in keeping you on the forefront of what is happening, collecting all of this market data and feeding it to you. One of the most beautiful things, I'm going to share this for a second on the vision speech. Can you guys see my screen? Yeah, okay. Hold on, I'm going to make you bigger so I can see you all at the same time. Is if you look at the vision speech, I'm going to skip through a couple of slides here. When we get down to the actual statistics, at the bottom of each of the slides, it literally will tell you the resource that they used right there. The resource that they used to pull the statistics from. Many of you guys didn't realize. Katie, did you realize that that was referenced on every single slide?
Not every single slide. I mean, that's huge.
Right? So if in your mind, you want to go deeper or you want to understand where this information is coming, or your client asks you, well, where did you come up with that information? Well, in this case, it was the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Viable source? Are we taking perception into reality by saying, this is actually what these people do. They're tracking these numbers, right? If you go through, you will see all of these are US Bureau of Economic Analysis, GDP, every single one, National Association of Realtors. I think that's an awesome nugget for you guys to focus on as you're walking through statistics. The lore, right? Who's using the lore in their business right now? Yeah, what is the lore, you guys?
Language of real estate.
Language of
Yes.
real estate.
Language of real estate. What does it compare?
Us against the RMLS.
Us against the MLS. Are we winning against the MLS? Right now, if you've been in any of our classes, it's one thing to compare ourselves against the market, and it's another thing to compare ourselves against ourselves. Yes, ourselves against ourselves, right? Are we selling more homes than we did last year? Do we have a higher percentage in conversion? Okay, the next thing that is super value in your business, if you're not using it, I would consider is the TMO. What is the TMO, you guys?
Total market overview.
Total market overview. What does it do?
It gives you the actives, the pendings, your list of sales price ratios for each area.
You guys, another blessing of being part of Keller Williams, they literally took all of your MLS data and whittled it down to the micro, right, Katya? Like to the micro. What is happening in your neighborhood in every single price point of your neighborhood, including listings taken, inventory levels, and all your list to sale price, days on market, and every single price point in every single market. If this is news to you guys, make sure that we pull out the TMO. If we have time today, I'll walk you through some of that. Your market action or monthly report from your MLS, critical. What are some of the key factors that we find off of our local market action or monthly market reports from our MLSs, guys? People always ask me, what number should I be looking at on the market action? What should we be looking at, guys?
I look at the numbers from comparing 2020 to 2021. So the average and median sales prices, and of course, the months of inventory month over month and year over year.
Awesome. Aubrey, you're going to teach the class next time. Here's the deal, you guys. I love that. You actually called out one that I didn't. Like year over year stats on a local level. Very important. Here are the big ones that I look at on a regular basis, right? Starting big, inventory. And historical inventory is nice because they show that, right? Appreciation. And median home price versus average home price. This is the quiz, guys. What's the difference between median and average?
Median is the middle number of what has sold, as opposed to adding all of the property amounts and dividing by the number of properties.
I love it, right? Median's the middle. Which one's more important to your clients? Stacy, you were on.
I'm sorry, the median number I think is most important.
Why?
I just did a CMA where there was a short sale and all the other comps supported 400,000, but down the street something sold for 150,000. That was a short sale that took a year to close, and that would greatly skew all of the other numbers if I took that in consideration.
I love it. Anybody else have any thoughts around why median maybe, or would go the other way and say average is the better number to look at? Do you guys think this is important for you to know? Okay. Here's the deal, you guys. Median helps us exclude the outliers. It helps us exclude that out. Like a $20 million home sells in Lake Oswego. Does that pull our average home price up? So when you're talking to your clients about the average home price, can they get defeated when they're like, we merely just won't be able to hit that? Well, you've got an outlier. So the median allows us to cut through that and give us really where the bulk of the homes are selling, right? It's giving us that middle number. Where the bulk of the homes selling? The super lows are irrelevant. The super highs are irrelevant. It's often a better indicator for our consumers. Okay, the other ones that I look at on a local level, number of listings hitting the market. We already talked about that. That is critical because that helps us tell the reality story between number of listings coming on and inventory levels. The number of pendings, right? Is it going up? Is it going down? Right? We know that revenue is going to show up 30, 60, 90 days later after pending goes in. So we watch it for a lot of reasons, right? It'll tell us absorption rate, and it will be an indicator of what future closed sales are going to look like. What are the next 2 months going to look like in the industry stats? The number of solds, right? This is important because I think it was last State of the Industry, we said what was interesting was that when we looked at the number of homes that were getting to sold and the ones that went pending 30 and 60 days ago, they didn't match. Why? What did that trend tell us? In the last 2 months, pendings were way high, like historically high, but our sold number is not historically high. What does that mean, guys? So I feel like it's a quiz, pop quiz time.
It means things aren't closing.
Right, they're falling out of
And
contract.
that's my big question for this meeting. The reason I came on, I want to know what is happening with appraisals, because I'm back new on the market selling again and am blown away that I finally got an offer through at 55,000 over list price. So are things appraising? And I don't know where to go to find that data.
Great question. We actually talked about that on the last mastermind just a few minutes ago. And the answer to that is appraisers are just as confused as you are. Like we had an agent who literally just said, I had an appraisal come in. What was it? Like maybe like $40,000 low. And so they switched lenders and then it came in $20,000 high. So there's a science and an art.
Stacy from like a boots on the ground, and yay, by the way, for being back out there. I'm proud of you. Yay, is that I in the last 50 transactions, I've had one low appraisal. It was in Tigard. We went $55,000 over and it came in $3,000 under that. So
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, I'm not seeing any that are not going at least to list price, but they're not always going as high as we're going, but that was the only one. Everything else for my listings and my buyers has been appraising.
Oh, I really appreciate hearing that because it's just really scary to me. And, you know, they said they'd cover the first 10,000 if it doesn't appraise, but.
Yeah, and the answer is looking globally across the state of Oregon. Yes, we are seeing appraisals come in low and even some lower than the list price. So we just need to be shoring up our transactions to account for those appraisals, right? Because the appraisers are having a difficult time out there just as we are, right? Okay, we're gonna keep going. And you hit it on the head, Stacy, right? Like if pending, our solds aren't matching our pendings, one of two things is happening. One, it's taking longer to get to the closing table, right? Which could be the case, or we're seeing the next stat, back on markets, right? How many of the homes are coming back on market? In an uncertain market like this, it would be normal and typical that we would see more back on markets as consumer confidence is somewhat shaken, or appraisals come in low, or they're having to move so fast to make an offer on something they may not be fully committed to it. So we start to see those back on markets, right? Totally normal. Price reductions. Do we see many of those these days? We don't, and should we see some of those?
Leslie, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
We're talking about prices. So one of the trends that we're seeing is prices and then them increasing, the listing agent increasing pricing. And I was on Masters in Real Estate and they were talking about because they were doing that to kind of help the appraisers, but I think it's also skewing the numbers. So if they're listing it at 600 and then they go pending and they actually change that number to 620, I think that's also sort of messing with the numbers, and I'm seeing it pretty often in this market.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, as if the appraisers can't see that they raised the price, right? Like, I think I will say, like in the world of yesteryear, where there wasn't like a clear technology, like historical record, that was a little easier to get away with that game. But can pretty much anybody see, like if you're in the industry, can you see the historical data? So I don't know how effective that is in today's.
Oh, I don't think it's effective, but I do think it messes with the data for sure.
For sure, right? We have to understand the story behind the story. The other ones that we're looking at is expireds, right? How many expireds are we looking at? Especially important if as changing markets happen, or if you're working in expired market, like if that's the lead generation source that you chose to use, how big is your pool and how many people are competing for the same 45 homes that hit the market that expired in the last 12 months in Beaverton, Aloha? Good luck. Right? All right, and the last one I put on here is days on market. Now, days on market is also an interesting one that's come up in conversations as well. Is days on market an accurate reflection of actual days on market, guys? Why not?
Because it includes when it's under contract.
Once they accept a contract, it'll go pending. But we have to be careful right now with days on market, because how many sellers are out there saying, I'm putting it on the market on Thursday, we will look at offers next Tuesday.
Mhm.
Technically, could that house have sold in the first day?
Yeah.
Most likely. So
That's a
that's
great point.
something newly emerging that we're starting to go, oh, be careful with days on market, because as you're advising your client, that might have an impact in how we need to guide them through the process, right? The average days on market in your area is 7 days. That may or may not be a reflection of when we should expect offers to come in. Okay. Whew. All right.
Well, and on that price reduction conversation you mentioned earlier, I know, some agents are choosing to take a listing that may feel overpriced with the price reduction strategy already in place. So that may be the result of some of those price reductions, to say, we just threw out there, make me move. And okay, now we're coming down to earth. So that may be some of that story.
I love that. And I think that the answer to that is there are definitely some houses out there that could use a price reduction, right? Definitely. And you can sometimes see that in your TMOs, right? Like that will give you an indication. I was looking at a TMO this morning and I was like, hey, there was one house in the 275 to 300 range and it's been on the market for 45 days. That's a great indication that you should lower your price. All right. Okay, you guys, we talked about a lot of these things. Once again, what I want to say to you guys is listen to the people who use your tools and resources. You do not need to be a master of everywhere to get and find and dig out the data. Find your resources that collect that information and give it to you in a way that you can then easily tell the story to your clients and structure your business. We gave you a couple of resources. I'm going to give you one more for those of you guys who want to get versed in this, and I highly, highly recommend it, is listen to people who are talking the talk. If you want to increase your competence and confidence around market statistics, then listen to the people who talk market statistics so you know the verbiage to be using to properly articulate it. I put something in there because in KW Connect, an incredible guy named Jim Talbot every single month does a market update. And he's fantastic to listen to because he navigates all of those numbers for you, right? And for those of you guys who are audio learners who don't love looking at pages of statistics, it's a fantastic resource because it'll give you that quick and easy thing to understand the industries. Listen to Chris Suarez. Listen to Gary whenever he talks market stats. Listen to him and listen to him and listen to him again. How many times do you think I've listened to the vision speech? Right? The answer is a lot. I also have detailed notes about it. So if anybody were to ask me, oh my gosh, when I look at the unemployment rate, what's the good number? Where do I need to be? Do you think I knew that? Do I think I remember that on any given day? Do I need to? No, because I have it right here. And Gary said that anything below 6 is good. And anything below 3 means we have virtual full employment. Use your tools and keep cheat sheets so that you can talk the talk and walk the walk. All right, you guys, how do we integrate it? And this is, Katya, where I think we need to go next, is telling the story. Now that we have the tools, how do we tell the story? We talked a little bit about it, and this is the with them part of this. You guys, I will stay on and we'll open it up, but we want to narrow it down to the statistic that we want to see. When I use a TMO in any consultation, buyer consultation or listing consultation, I will tell you, here's the next most important thing is before you tell this story, know your audience. Mm-hmm. Alan, this goes to what do people on Facebook want? How do we need to say these stats on Facebook? It needs to be like a simple statistic, boldly seen, easy to interpret, and with an explanation, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody can post a number, but what does the number mean? How does it affect me?
What's in it for them?
What's in it for me? If you are going to a listing consultation, right, and you are dealing with a high C person, fantastic. They are going to just soak up that TMO. Be careful. They might get lost in it for the next 3 hours. If you're dealing with a high D, you're going to pull out that TMO and they're going to be like, oh, I'm out. Like, I don't, nope, right? So here's the answer, Katya. How do I use the TMO in my consultations? I highlight what I want them to look at. I control the conversation, right? I will literally show them where to look and what is circling what's important. We have to navigate it for them. Otherwise, their brain just shuts off the moment they see statistics for most people.
Leslie, can you just explain the difference on the TMO between the last two columns of days on market?
Yep. And for those of you, anybody on the call not familiar with TMO? Well, good. You're all masters. Okay, here we go. Here's your TMO. This is Beaverton, Oregon. Beaverton, Aloha, single family. So here's your columns, right? I look for trends on this as well to help me navigate my clients because sometimes there might be price breaks on here. So this one is the April 6th one. You've got average days on market for solds and average days on markets for actives. I'm going to kick it out there, guys. I can tell you what it is, but who that is using the TMO that understands the difference between those two columns? Okay, well, this is a good day then. Okay, you guys, average days on market for solds means of the sold homes, how long were they on the market for? Right? Homes that got to the closing table, what was their amount of time from list to pending? Average days on market for actives is of the homes that are left currently active, how many days on market has that been? Right? Why is that important, you guys? Okay, I'm going to go down. So for me, right, let's play this out in real life, Aubrey. And I feel like, Katya, maybe next month we just do TMO and I'll go into like super intricate details of TMO. But if we were to go down here and say, hey, between 275 and 299, the average days on market for homes that have sold was 38. Right? The average days on market for current actives is 46. Okay, you guys see that stat. What does that tell you? What should our client know about that stat?
That makes me think that there are homes overpriced on the market. And so, yeah, that's how I use that.
Yes, you got it. That's the difference, right? So when somebody says, hey, I want to shoot for the moon and overprice my house, and you say, hey, based on your goals, you wanted to be in Bend by May, let's take a look at this. Statistics show that if we miss the mark on pricing, you are going to stay on the market longer. Are you okay with not getting to Bend in May if we list at that price? Or do you just want to price it where we're actually going to get an offer?
Those last two columns, like in the 475 to 499 range, like 26 to 6 days is like, and that's a trend in a lot of places where you're going from much higher to much lower. That's where I'm like, wowzers, right?
So
27.
What I would say that probably is, Aubrey, is that the ones that have sold, those did price reductions, right? People overshot the market. They ended up having to do price reductions. And then that's why they're getting in there.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. You guys, you're going to be looking for breaks in this, right? Like sometimes you'll see weird anomalies. I use this list price to sales price a ton, right? And we use that in buyer consultation. Once again, literally my team just used it on Thursday or on Friday when somebody said 425, I want to offer 408 cash and close in 2 weeks. And I was like, well, let's pull out the TMO and see or the current market analysis and see if anything in that neighborhood has gone below list price. Do you think he wrote the offer at 408 at the end of the day? No, because guess what, you guys? Leverage the tools and let the statistics tell a story that they may not be willing to hear from you. I hate to say that, right? Like, because that hurts in our heart. Like, why don't they listen to me? Anybody else have that aha moment? It happens in leadership all the time, where they're like, oh my God, I heard the most amazing thing. To be competitive, I need to write an offer at 105% to list a sales price. And you're like, oh my God, I've been telling you that for three months and 6 offers. Just me? Let the market tell them a story that they're not willing to hear from you. All right, you guys, I'm going to open it up to questions, conversations around that. The more that you look at these numbers, the better off you're going to be. But my advice is don't try to eat the whole elephant at once. Choose the statistics that are the most relevant to your business right now and track that tool, resource, or statistic over time. Because you will then start to become the expert on understanding that and articulating it. This is a muscle that we exercise. And once you've mastered that, your brain can take in more information, right? Like maybe then you might be able to tackle the difference between unemployment and the age group of unemployment and how that is impacted by our local market and the demand for housing in each of those age groups. Who's mastered that? But you will, one bite at a time. All right, what questions do you guys have for me?
So I'll go with the TMO. So I use the TMO often. And the thing I have is like you go area 149 and you check prices for $700,000 dollars homes, and they are selling 99% below. But then you go to Bethany, where my client is looking, and the 700,000 homes are going for 770. So that's the gap I'm finding sometimes. Like, where do I go to see those numbers specifically for Bethany or for 97229, or, to give the most local data, because 149 includes North Plains, and North Plains is not telling me what I want to hear.
So Katya, what I would say to that is in your consultations, listen, I use this term a lot. We have to be masters of leading them down the path or guiding them down to the path to the conclusion that we're looking for. Now, the conclusion that we're looking for is what they told us their goals were, right? Like that's very important, but we're leading them down the path to the conclusion that we're looking for. So the best way to do that is to start macro. This is what's happening in the United States. This is what's happening in our state. This is what's happening in Beaverton, Aloha, and this is a CMA for your specific neighborhood, right? And the reason why we guide them down that path and scripting through that would be important, right? Because you're moving through it quickly without overwhelming them, is that you have given yourself credibility that you understand the industry from a broader scope, and this is how it applies directly to them in their neighborhood. Because sometimes if we don't walk them down that path and we just go, this is what's happening in your neighborhood, their limiting beliefs or all those things that people were telling them are still rattling.
Okay. So it's straight to a CMA basically for that neighborhood.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. And I usually do it like more global. Like I'll go, here's the good news is, as a seller, inventory levels are at 1 month. What that means is XYZ. Here's the TMO for this area. And the great news is homes in your price point are selling between this and this, or this many days on market, or this percentage. And this is how it's happening in your neighborhood in Bethany, right? CMA. Because then they can't, all those objections that they've been like building up in their mind, you have literally handled them without them ever saying them. And the great thing about that is sometimes when our clients are holding on to limiting beliefs, they actually stop listening to you because they're so excited to give you that limiting belief or tell you all the reasons why you're wrong. And when you start stripping back that onion and being like, I covered it, they let go of those things, right? Psychology. Yes.
So, my question is regarding pricing on listings in the market today. I have 2 listings that are coming on that and that's why I'm asking you this question, that I'm working on pricing. And it seems to me that there's a trend of pricing under market to bring in more offers. And I'm just wondering, I mean, this is something I'm just seeing on my own because I'm working with several buyers right now, but I'm wondering if yes, that's true. That's what's happening. And that's a good thing to do, to bring in a wider net. But it's frustrating when you talk to the agents and you do the comps yourself for your buyers and you find, well, they're expecting an offer at least 50 over what the list price is. So just trying to stay on top of my game. What is your recommendation about pricing listings well now?
Anybody want to field that?
I can just say for me, when I did my comps for my house that just went on, I felt like I priced it a little above and I wasn't sure it was going to go. And then it still went 65,000 over. So I don't know the answer to that.
I give them a range and say, it's usually within $20,000. You can go this and we would get more traffic in. We would go this, which is more where I think the comps are showing. But Stacey, I'm really going off of, for the most part, I'm really bringing in the comps from the last 2 to 3 months of sales to figure out where we should go. And I don't know what you're talking about the pricing strategy. I don't know if it's that, or if they're just sort of missing the mark, or if they're going by what their clients want to do. I'm not sure. I did just have a situation where there was a house that had sold at almost 700,000 that was on the market for 535. And another house on the street, seeing that, went up at 600 just to kind of, try to mitigate that a little bit. And they still wound up going like $75,000 over, even though the agent really tried to set it more where it should be. It's really literally buyer demand. It's really what the buyers think it's worth.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up, but this is what I would say to this, Stacey. This is a very big conversation right now. And Chris and I have been doing masterminds on this, is that we need to understand that pricing is both a science, right? Using the statistics, this is what your home would, based on the numbers, this is where we should end up. But it's also an art, right? And that's where in today's market, it is part art. And we have to be able to articulate to our clients about when you are pricing, what would be the expected outcome if we price low, right? There's 3 ways to price your home. We can do what we call shoot for the moon, which is put a really high price on that. Here's the benefits to that, right? In today's market, you might receive less offers, which might be good for them because they don't want 50 offers. Now, the con to that is if we miss the mark and your house experiences more days on market than the average, then buyers are going to start to ask one question: what is wrong with that house? And ultimately, you could end up getting less. The next way we can price is we can price right where we think it's going to sell. The great news is that only buyers that are qualified to buy your home will probably be looking at it. And in this market, many cases, it may go up from there. I have no crystal ball and cannot guarantee that. Be careful about telling your clients that they should expect multiple offers, because that is a killer if you do not receive them, right? Because then they're like, what did you do wrong? Or the third strategy, is to place it right below where we think it would sell based on the scientific approach of looking at the CMA. And the benefit to that is we should expect multiple offers in most cases, because we can't promise it, and they're going to bring their highest and best. Now, and this is really important to say, and the great news is that I literally cannot undersell your home, because they're going to say, I don't want to leave money on the table. And you're going to say, the great news is I literally can't undersell your home, because ultimately the buyers will tell us what your home is worth. The only way I could undersell your home is if I put your house on the market today, only allow one person through, and then we accept the first offer on the table. And clearly we're not going to do that, right? Now, I think the big conversations if you're following masters is like a lot of sellers don't want to get 50 offers on their home. A lot of people don't want 100 people through their house on a Saturday afternoon, right? In which case, if you have a client who doesn't want to be in that bucket, don't underlist the house, right? Put it to where only actual buyers will be looking at the home and making offers. Is that helpful, you guys? So anyway, the answer is that's the art. Good luck out there. All right, you guys, thank you for joining us for today. We will have this recording posted on kwtechhelp.com where you can go back and see all of the previous recordings of both the Mastery Models Mastermind as well as the Momentum Mastermind. For those of you who are solo agents, I hope that you will join us for our very first all-network solo agent mastermind today at 11 o'clock, where we'll be talking about specific challenges that you're facing as a solo agent or a single agent with admin. And we'll just continue these conversations. All right, you guys, talk to you soon.